Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back. My name is Angel, and I'm in the process of making more space for my natural soul's expression. What a journey it's been. What a journey it's been. I've recently moved, so there's been a lot of transition in my life physically, but also mentally, spiritually, emotionally. Granted, that's the life I've chosen to live. I've chosen to live a life where I'm consistently evolving, yada, yada, yada. So change is, in fact, the only constant in life. And, whatever cliche phrase you can come up for change is very true. But I just, every now and again, I look up from the work that I'm doing and I'm like, wow, look how far we've come. I found myself kind of putting off recording and posting over these last few days due to not having my space, fully set up. I guess it was perfectionism. Yeah, perfectionism was getting in the way. I'm like, well, I'll do it when when I have everything in order. And I was taking notes on like, ooh, that's a topic, that's a spark, that's a spark. And then it clicked. The intention behind showing up here on YouTube was practice, not perfection. It was practice getting comfortable just showing up out loud, you know? It is practice in that way. So I'm gonna continue to try and remind myself of that so that I can keep doing this work. Already, I can see the value in showing up out loud in this way. Different networks, different communities, different opportunities, the clarity that I get from sometimes I'm externally processing here, very vulnerable. Probably not the best space to do it in, but I try to keep things compartmentalized as far as like oversharing and getting too personal. But yeah, it's been it's been fun. It's been a lot of fun. I kind of have an idea of what I want to talk about because it's stemming as everything, right? From my own experience over the past couple weeks. But I'm going to get quiet and make space for my soul to see how she wants to relate what's been happening in my life to anyone who might be listening, maybe to my future self. We don't know. Okay. While while there are similarities ex in the within the human experience, not everyone is going to be exactly the same. It's not a one size fits all. It's not black and white, and nothing is going to be linear. And so this raises the question of what happens when you are misunderstood. And when you come from a place, since I come from a place of, you know, um, not really having a clear identity formed as a kid due to the trauma and the moving around and things like that. Sometimes when I'm misunderstood, I can take people's temporary opinions and make them my identity if I'm not careful. Now, this has been a lifelong pattern, but after 2 years of really getting to know myself and making more space for all versions of me at the table, when I came out of that, I was very surprised and kind of shook to meet similar patterns. Things were being said, opinions were being thrown out, and it bummed me out. It bummed me out. So it sent me on this little bit of a rabbit hole of Well, it started with the spark. It started with a little download. My spirit was like, "You're an anomaly." I'm like, sounds sounds a little crazy, but yeah, I move different. And so it kind of makes sense that you're going to be misunderstood. And I had to sit with this for a while because, my feelings were hurt. People were are people have, do, and will make up versions of you in their head. And because I move different, that can be kind of intimidating. I mean, it makes sense, right? On a survival mode, if someone is different, that can be kind of threatening. So, okay, what does that mean for me? And what does that mean for today's recording? Because I could recognize the pattern of being projected upon and realizing that I do one of two things. I can either inspire people or I can trigger people. I I was very familiar with this pattern, right? And some of my old habits, some of my old coping mechanisms were starting to creep in. Immediately, I started to shrink. I wanted to play small. According to what was said, I then rearranged how I was showing up and had told myself, oh, it's no big deal. Because let's be honest, the one thing I know how to do best is play small, right? And so I noticed, I noticed. And I think that in and of itself, just the awareness around and being able to take yourself out of a situation and just be aware of what's really happening, more so within yourself than externally, but externally for obvious reasons. Hello. I think that's the point of the work. And then, choosing if you want to react differently or create a different energy. And so for about 2 days, I was operating that the same, playing small, shrinking, making myself not so seen, right? And what shifted? Something came to mind about, well, look at the source angel. If you wouldn't want their life, why would you listen to what they're saying? Right? I used to utilize that for advice when people used to give unsolicited advice. I would take a look at where it's coming from. Like, if you don't want their life, don't listen to their advice. And then this time around, because it was judgment and criticism, like, yeah, ouch, but I turned it into if you don't like their thoughts, no, if you if you wouldn't walk their walk, don't take on their thoughts. I thought that was cute. But it just kind of goes to show like the work that I have been doing of truly connecting myself, mind, body, spirit. I think people are calling it living in coherence, right? Living in coherence. I am now able to be aware of how certain situations make me feel and decide how I want to react. Did I do the cha-cha and slip and slide back into some old habits for 2 days? Yes. And I even cried. I was hurt. I'm like, wow, I have worked so hard to uh I guess be a good person because, side note, I don't know if you remember, but I got my first hater here on YouTube and he was like triggered by by me. He was like, "You just seem like a nice person, but something's pissing me off. I'm just catching like a lot of shame." And that stuck with me. And then I remembered, "Oh yeah, one of my core things is shame." So I'm actively revisiting those the abandonment stuff and the shame stuff while I'm also trying to be present in who I am now and create the life I want to be. Because again, and I'll probably say this in every video, it's not about spiritually bypassing or toxic positivity. I'm ironing it all out so that I can be present, so that I can be whole, hmm? Wholeheartedly living this life, authentically aligned. So that means you have to go in and do the shadow work. So I am revisiting all that at the same time. Um, and with that shame, from the work that I've been doing these last couple of days, I realize there is a negative narrative of Angel, you're a bad person. And it's like, fuck. I don't necessarily know when or if that's ever going to 100% of the time go away. Because I'll tell you, like, every phase of my life, I'll work on it and I'll get to a certain degree and then move forward. And it just like peels back another layer of the same work. This is not new. I knew there was shame. I knew there was abandonment. I knew there was a narrative of, and I know exactly where it comes from. Her voice is still in my head. I'm going to do my work about it. Okay. But it was babies don't come out of the womb shameful. They don't come out of the womb inadequate. This was learned. This was learned. And I accidentally, as one might, adopted it. And so that's like the underlying operating system. I wish I didn't block him so fast. If he hadn't commented so much and like started calling me like the devil and shit, I would have been, oh, no, I got what I needed from him. Never mind. I got what I needed from him. And I thank him. If he can still watch these, then I thank you for being triggered and for mirroring back the quote unquote shame that you felt emanating from me. Because I do believe, excuse me, I might sneeze. Mm, allergies. Goodness. Excuse me. I do believe that we fellow humans are all mirrors for each other. And we're here to show each other where we aren't loving ourselves, maybe unconditionally or enough or full acceptance, right? Because think about it. And this is what was happening. This is what was happening. So now taking that little side quest all the way back to the main point of being misunderstood. When I was in the process of being misunderstood, and I was in fact taking it on as truth instead of utilizing it as a mirror, right? In those first 2 days, I was shrinking. I was playing small. I wanted to be invisible, right? But when I started to flip it as like, wait a second, I recognize these patterns and I see how those particular people, I know their mindset. I know how they work. I know who I am. I know the work that I do. I know the healing that I've done. I know how far I've come, and I was able to kind of meet it where it is and decide what to do with it. I was aware, and then I got to practice my power of choice and decide what I wanted to do with that. Because for the most part, it's not true. What these people are saying or how they're feeling isn't necessarily true, but I could see how they could come to those conclusions with the life that they've lived and the beliefs they've adopted and the way that I move. Excuse me, the way that I move. My point in saying that is those are two different vibrational states. Let me breathe. Let me breathe. Two different vibrational states. One is a very lower vibrational. I'm being rejected. I'm being projected on. I have shame. I am bad because that's my underneath it all operating system, right? The other one is, yes, I'm a work in progress. No, I'm not perfect. I could see how this trigger would come about, but I'm going to utilize it as a mirror to reinforce that I'm not terrible. I I'm healing those core wounds. I'm moving forward and and it's okay, right? It's giving like even just slightly better of a vibrational state. Then the next level, once I got to practice that, it's okay, Angel, we're safe here. And go shrinking is a version of going backwards. And I've never really known how to go backwards. So how do I go forward? Going forward is like talking to my current roommates and saying, hey, these are the stories that my brain is telling me. And if I believe them, I'm going to play small. Is this true for us? And I don't want to live small. And how is, communicate and move forward together. And we have. And it's been mm, so good. So good. Um, I'm gonna cry because when you choose to listen to your spirit or the intuition in your head and you move and it works out and you can feel it and yeah, that's just I can just feel it viscerally in my body that I made a right choice. I'm really thrilled, you know, because then the next level is now I get to do the shadow work, but from a loving place, right? There's no blame or shame or guilt. It's simply, this is where I am, getting to the exact root of it. These are the ways that I'm going to heal from it while practicing living in the present moment. Those are like the branches, right? And then the fruits of that labor are more compassion, more patience, more understanding, more empathy, right? And thus, even like I have this newfound understanding of like, hey, I'm sorry for whatever you're going through that makes judging me so important in your life, you know? Ouch. Yeah. There was another piece there too, though. When you're misunderstood, feel the owie, reframe, operating from the energy um, leakages. When I was spiraling those first 2 days, I just remember like all my energy was being poured into like wanting to prove myself and so sad I was misunderstood and depressed, all this energy was going into that lower vibrational situation. When in all reality, I have bigger things in my own reality that I need to manage my energy for. Now, energy management has become so vital for everything that I am trying to create. And and when I spend so much of that energy on these lower vibrational moments, I become, rightly so, right, depleted. And so then when I try to show up here, even just for practice or show up in creating my program or show up for my clients in any which way, I'm not pouring from an empty cup because I've just leaked all that out. Now, I do think it is our responsibility to energy manage. And between the work that I've been doing, the reframes that was able to come to, and then this energy management piece, my spirit came in loud and clear and was like, okay, put your blinders on and double down in you. Blinders up, double down. Bless them up, focus. What do you want to put your energy towards now? You know? So it was actually quite interesting, again, to utilize a trigger to anchor into who I'm creating, what I'm creating, and just being very intentional about embodying the identity that I'm choosing. Or perhaps that I've always been, but as I'm doing this, I'm pulling back the layers, right? To uncover who she's always been. So that was I thought that was pretty cool. Hard, very hard, but worth a share. I'm just gonna get quiet here because my ego's like, okay, we shared the lessons, turn it off. But I want to see if there's anything else here. Right. So it just reiterates the fact that triggers can be tools to help us anchor in, help us uncover where we're still um, operating on those old operating systems. That was a surprise for me. I was like, man, I thought we worked through that. But new levels, new devils, quote unquote. That's what me and my sister like to say, right? So now I'm in a new environment. There's new opportunities, there's new communities popping up. So, it's easy to do the cha-cha into those things. And that's okay. You know, if I'm really going to talk about shame, then let's clock it. Is there shame in evolution, personal development? If you allow it, it's the same thing with fear. Like, I think those things only have power over you if you surrender to them. I refuse. Once I become aware of where my power is, then I call it back. I'm not going to say I never get afraid, obviously, right? But that awareness piece of it. And that's where it pays to slow the fuck down, tune the fuck in, and really take inventory of what is the truth. I got self-conscious in this moment because I can hear one of my roommates is home. But I can't help but just stumble into gratitude, gratitude for it all. Because I won't let myself continue to play small. And the dreams and the goals and the life that I want for myself are pretty big. And I realize I'm going to have to be seen on big levels in some ways, shape, or form. And not everybody's going to like me. So this was great practice to be able to experience being misunderstood on small levels and practice the tools to overcome healthily. So I'm grateful. Like every day I realize why that phrase of like it's all working out in your favor is a thing. Because the detours, the triggers, the practices, the lessons, all adding tools and experience and like grit, resilience, bravery, courage to the toolbox. It was hard too because this plays on some of my deepest core wounds. Um, it cracks me up that it was shedding light on how because I'm starting to understand that when any wound, when there's a trigger, the only reason why you're being triggered is because there's like a need that's not being met. And so it sheds some light on like, Angel, you still want to belong, as someone whose core wound is like abandonment and self-abandonment as well. You still want to belong. You still want acceptance. You want to be seen authentically and you want to be loved fully, right? And so it all just circled right back. Angel, in what ways are you not accepting yourself? In what ways are you not loving on yourself? In what ways are you, because it has to start here. And I know that now. I know that now. After many years of seeking external validation and surface level this, that, and the other, and settling, it's just like it's my own love that I've been seeking. So I'm excited. I'm excited what's to come because, like I said, once my eyes are open, there's no closing. Once I'm aware of something, I instantly want to learn and apply those lessons, and I can't necessarily go backwards. So, forward movement. Cheers to forward movement. Cheers to triggers, and cheers to being misunderstood and overcoming that in healthy ways. Okay. Love you. Mwah.